going to decide which way is the best place to go. I think it's around here. This is awesome. So finally, a large herd of buffalo. And now you may understand what I was saying about the fact that you very often get to see these animals, but not in this kind of a makeup. We seldom have the large breeding herds of buffalo on our property, and isn't this just a wonderful sight? It's typically the older men that we see lurking around the water holes, and there's obviously not enough food, or there's better food elsewhere for these large herds of buffalo to feed, and that is why we have not seen them on our property very much. But certainly very happy to have them here this morning. You will notice in amongst the herd there will be some large males, so large males will stay with the herd, but you also get some that are even older and more inclined to a relaxed way of life, and those are the ones that we've been seeing over the past few weeks and months. What I'd like to do, and Andrew, if you just stay on that shot, if you look at the two buffalo that you can see, the one on the right is a young male. Where its horns join, you can see there's a prominent bulge and there's no fur, whereas the buffalo on the left of the center of the shot, and now also on the far right, are females. Their boss, where their horns join in the center of their skull, is often hairy and not very pronounced. There's no large bulge. This now is a male in the foreground, and again when he picks up his head, you'll notice there's a large bulge of keratin and bone where the horns meet, as well as no hair. The females, on the other hand, will have a hairy connection at the center of their skull where the horns meet. So that's the easiest way to distinguish between male and female. They both do have horns, but the males are often far more pronounced and bulky, especially at the center where they meet. Now, I wonder where the crocodile is, because there's a crocodile in this dam. Well, at least there was one here yesterday afternoon. I believe Mark saw it. Mickey also just reminded me now that there was also a hippo here yesterday afternoon. Possibly two, I think. No sign of the hippo or the crocodile. The hippo wouldn't bother with all these buffalo around, and hippo, just like the buffalo, are herbivores, and they don't mind one another. The crocodile, on the other hand, would certainly be interested in any easy meals here, and a young buffalo calf, which we can see in amongst the herd. There are some small calves, would certainly be a realistic prey species for a croc. We'll get an update from the guys on the last position of the Nkuhuma Pride, because we can expect the prides of lion to start following the buffalo are more inclined to hunt buffalo in the winter, and the buffalo will become weaker and weaker as their food begins to become less and less. And we can expect to see a lot of lion and buffalo interaction over the coming months, provided it happens on our property, which I'm hoping it does. Is anybody with Nkuhuma pride at the moment? Sorry, not copying the last station. Could somebody else try and relay, please? Morning, yours. Welcome back, and thank you for the update. Copy. You always bring some good luck with you, so good to have you back. Well, there certainly are a lot of oxpeckers around, and understandably there's a huge amount of food for oxpeckers latched onto all these buffalo. Now, the oxpeckers are the little brown birds that you can hear as well as see. Their call is kind of like that of a comb's fingers being rubbed over a sharp edge. Oh, there's a young calf. It's not the smallest, but there are a lot of youngsters that would have been born at the beginning of the summer, but they will continue to give birth sporadically at different stages of the year with seasonal peaks that allow those lucky calves born in the beginning of summer to get off to a good start. There's a lot of vegetation around, which is good for both them and their mother that they'll be drinking from. But there's no set stage for them to mate or give birth. Like I said, they are just seasonal peaks. One of the local fishermen here at Buffleshoek Dam has taken fancy to a new perch. And look at that, a grey heron using the buffalo as a temporary island. So I did get an update from yours on the position of the Nkuhuma pride of lion, and they're sadly not nearby, and I was just double checking that they weren't on the move, because there is always a small chance that lions will move during the day, especially if they are following buffalo like this. But they are far to our west and north. Oh, it looks like the heron's going to have to make a decision shortly, because its island is on the move. Now, interestingly enough, the same buffalo that the heron is sitting on is missing half of its tail. Oh, look, there's the croc. What's it got? It's got a fish. Can you believe it?
As we're looking at the heron, wow.
Well, that explains where the crocodile is. It's been busy fishing. And this is just too good to be true. The buffalo are not going to be highly tolerant of it, but the croc's going to want to try and swallow this fish, and may need to get to shallower water in order to be able to get comfortable and toss it from side to side before swallowing it. There's a very small calf at the water's edge in front of the crocodile. And this old bull's coming to have a look at us. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind just going back to that croc there. And wasn't our timing just so lucky there? And the buffalo that we can see in shot has got no tail, and there's no special prizes to guess what happened to it. And also, Andrew just pans across to the left to the Heron Island buffalo. That buffalo is also missing half its tail. And it's lion that will often try and catch these buffalo, but they're huge and a buffalo can often escape. There's just so much going on, and apologies Andrew, I'm kind of trying to choose which is the best thing to film, but there's so much going on. This buffalo is just walking through the water right next to us. Again, an oxpecker, and so the red-billed oxpecker. It may need to swim a little bit. It'll be interesting to see. It's going to be a great indicator of how deep the dam is. Oh, no, it looks like it's okay, but the oxpecker doesn't trust us. And it's flown off to a safer buffalo. Well, it certainly all is all happening here at Buffleshoek Dam. And maybe the best bet is for Andrew just to put it on a wide angle and we can just sit back and try and take in all of what's going on here. And there are just so many animals to look at and different things to interpret that it is difficult to decide which is the most important or, excuse me, exciting. I just couldn't believe that crocodile poking its head out.
That was awesome.
Out of nowhere. And it also appeared, I couldn't see very clearly, but it did look, it certainly had something in its mouth. What is it? But definitely a fish or possibly a terrapin.
I'm not sure.
And Nicky, could you tell what was in the croc's mouth? Okay, so everyone here on the WildEarth team thinks it was a fish that he caught, and it could very well have been. There's different fish that occur in this dam, both catfish and tilapia that I know of. Now a lot of you may be interested in as to who is the boss out of all of these animals and who makes the decisions. And there's, from what I've been told, a few females within the herd that are older and wiser, and they kind of jointly create a council, you could almost call it, of leaders. And they've been given the term pathfinders, because that's essentially what they do. They determine which direction the herd should head in, and that would be obviously in search of both food and also water. So it's the older, wiser females that make the decisions, and the youngsters obviously follow suit and don't ask many questions, and the older, bigger bulls that do trail the herd in the hope of getting mating opportunities typically lag along at the back and are indifferent as to which direction they should head in. There is just a rare opportunity for us to show you an animal we don't see often, so I'm just going to reverse ever so slightly. It's a male bushbuck having a drink. Smaller cousin of the Nyala and the Kudu, and there's not very many of them here. So a great opportunity for us to show you a bushbuck. And he's come down and making the most of having so many visitors at the dam, because naturally he's going to feel much safer now with all these buffalo around to keep an eye out for any predators than he would if he was here alone. So a good example of our safety in numbers is allowing even this animal that's not part of the herd to cash in on the safety of the numbers that we can see here at Buffleshoek Dam. And speaking of numbers, I would hazard a guess that there could be around 200 buffalo that have come to this waterhole to drink. There could well be more, but they are slowly making their way out. And it looks like the bushbuck too is also finished with its drinking. See if it doesn't pop out into the sunlight, which I'm hoping it will. Come on, Mr. Bushbuck. Beautiful. It's such a delicate movement when they walk. Even their tracks are very distinctive. They're very V-shaped and sharp and precise, and you can see by the way it almost depresses its hooves every time it steps that it's tiptoeing along. Okay, but as much as I love this bushbuck, I do want to try and loop ahead of the buffalo. The herd is now moving off, and what I'd like to do is just position the vehicle so that the remainder of the herd walks past us as they decide to head into some quite thick vegetation that we won't be able to follow them very easily in. Well, what a pleasant surprise. Certainly wasn't expecting. Here's a good example though that I'd like to use of a male and a female. So this is an old female closest to us, and if you don't mind trying to go as close as you can, there we go. You can see how, yes, her one horn is broken, but despite that, where her horns meet on the center of her head, it's very hairy and not very pronounced. No, shame. She must be a little bit shy because she looks like she doesn't want us to talk about her broken horns. Shame. Anyway, the big male that we can see now, I mean, you can very clearly see the difference in that boss, which is that central part of the mass of horns. And the males is very pronounced, whereas the females not so much, and also hairy. So thank you, Andrew, and that was a great comparison now for all of you, and I will be sure to be testing you in the coming weeks. Now we've also got an abnormally good view of a white-breasted cormorant, which is a fish-eating bird, and it's just so close to us that I can't resist this opportunity to show it to you. Sadly, you cannot see its big white breast, but you can see the white coming up onto the throat. It does have a very large... there we go. This one's a little less camera shy. Looks like it may be interested in swiveling around to show us its white breast. Well, this bird is incredibly well adapted to the food that it eats and the environment that it hunts in. It's got webbed feet that it uses to help it swim underwater. It'll also essentially fly underwater and use its wings to help propel it as it chases fish through this murky water that we're looking in, and how on earth it ever manages to catch them, I don't know. But a talented hunter and a fish eater. Okay, Mr. Comrade, thank you for your close-up visual. And just want to try and get ahead of the last section of the herd that we can get to walk past us. Well, Andrew, isn't this awesome, eh? The last thing I expected was to see a large herd of buffalo this morning, and what a welcome surprise it's been.
It's only the second time I've seen a little buffalo in 2 months.
Okay.
Quite something.
Well, there we go. Go ahead. Just got a question through from Anne, and she's asking about oxpeckers, and we've got a whole lot right next to us here. So while we answer the question about oxpeckers, we may as well get a great visual of them, and this is an awesome opportunity. We again are eye level with them and the buffalo, and there's lots of them on them. Anne is interested to know whether the oxpeckers will stay here permanently or whether they'll move off. This is awesome. Well done, Andrew. Those two are fighting, clearly. There's obviously a lot of ticks on this buffalo that they will be feeding on. But no, and they don't stay in one place waiting for animals to come to them. They prefer to fly around and look for their most likely source of meal, which a large herd of buffalo like this will certainly keep a lot of oxpeckers' mouths and bellies busy. Like I say, going to try and loop ahead of them and get them to walk past us on their pathway out of here. And these are two young oxpeckers. They lack the red beak yet, so they would have been born just a few months ago in our summer. And the adults, you'll notice, have a bright red beak. I am looking closely at sometimes we get lucky on the large herds of buffalo that we see another oxpecker called a yellow-billed oxpecker, and it would be wonderful to be able to show you them. Again, a great comparison between male and female approaching us here, with the male and look at that, wonderful, clearly distinguishable, with the male's boss being large and sheathed in keratin, whereas the female's horns have got a hairy center, and not nearly as impressive as of a bulge. Look at the heron, it's still riding the buffalo even though the buffalo's out the water. This is awesome. So this heron is now the view for whatever it is that's sitting on their back. Evening game drive. It's a good question, and I hope they won't, but difficult to say now. They're probably going to move for a little bit longer. Oh, look at this old female coming to check us out here. She has got some serious character. Awesome. So she's just waddled forward, and she is an old lady, but she certainly is giving us a proper once over. We come in peace, old lady. And she appears to have now come to terms with us. But I'm guessing, as I was saying, sorry Anne-Marie, before that big old lady popped her head up in front of us, was that I think they could well sleep and ruminate, chew the cud for the hotter hours of the day, and therefore may not move too far between kind of now and 3 o'clock. But we are very close to our northern boundary, and when they do get active again this afternoon, it's hard to say which direction they would head in. Well, it's impossible to say. If history is anything to go by, they're not going to be hanging around on our property because they haven't been doing so over the last few weeks. So it could well be that they go back to the north where they have been spending more time. But having said that, there is also a chance that they could well head south towards Gowrie Dam, and who knows, maybe before we even get out on game drive, they could be drinking there. The buffalo now will be forced to move into areas where they typically haven't been eaten in search of food, and understandably they will have depleted food in certain areas where they have been spending a lot of time, and therefore may now head into areas where they haven't been spending much time in search of food. I'm just going to continue on. There's another vehicle that's arrived here. We want to give them a quick view. So I want to just make a bit of space so that they can get the last of this herd coming past. Oh, hello youngster. What a great way to finish the morning drive, everyone. And like I said, there's another vehicle, and I just want to leave them to enjoy the last little glimpses of these buffalo without us giving away all these oxpeckers. Now, that is something to behold. The tree is literally covered in them, and as the buffalo move through thicker vegetation, it'll become more difficult for the oxpeckers to hang on, and it could well be that the oxpeckers, just like the buffaloes, will be wanting to relax now. They've had their opportunities to feed, and now it's time to unwind. I'm sure you can tell by the sounds you're hearing that there are a lot of animals around, not just the ones you can see and shot, but we are literally surrounded by these oxpeckers, and aren't we lucky? What a morning it's been, and for us to be so involved and immersed in this beautiful wild ecosystem without having a major effect is something that we should all be very grateful for experiencing. Anyway, what a morning it's been. A huge thank you to Andrew on camera, Nikki in final control. Hopefully we will have the second vehicle running later this afternoon, possibly not for the start of the PM drive, but it will be up and running at some stage, and that's something to look forward to. Other than that, thanks so much for joining and all your support, and we'll see you later.